Hey y'all, I know I'm late, but we're gonna get into last week's episode of Love and Hip Hop, Love and Marriage, Huntsville, my bad. Season 6, episode 19, titled Townhall Downfall. My bad, y'all, my brain's still stuck on Love and Hip Hop. But if you enjoy this review, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. So they start off where they left off with Melody and Marsau arguing over Tisha, and she's like, you don't want me and Tisha to be cool and to have a good relationship. And Marcel says that he always wanted them to be in a good space, and Melody's looking like, boy, bye, stop lying. And then she tells him how that now what his actions show and what he's saying is a little different. And then Melody says that whenever they had their little social media wars, it wasn't ever she and Tisha going back and forth. It was always she and Marceau. And he's like, well, how many years ago was that? And says that the problem is that he can't share his opinion without someone thinking that it's a jab, and says that he has an opinion about what's going on, like their businesses and stuff, and that should be okay. But he feels like the Fletchers kind of like flipped what he said. Melody says, okay, Marcel, with the gaslighting. And she's just like, admit that you be throwing jabs. And he says that he takes credit for all his jabs, mind you. And he says that t-shirt businesses, he feels like it just really isn't much in his opinion. And he says that he uses it when he's talking about small businesses, but they just not doing nothing. Like he just doesn't respect t-shirt businesses. And I just feel like, what was the point of saying that? Like you caused a whole downhill messy spiral all because you said, oh, you don't respect t-shirt businesses, and people are like, well, you're doing the same thing. I just feel like that was dumb to say. He's having a lot of word vomit. Like Marceau isn't as on his toes as he used to be in the last few seasons. Like, what's going on? And then Marceau says that he and Tisha sell t-shirts, and Melody says, did they cut themselves a check for the expo? And Marceau says, what does that have to do with their conversation right now? And Melody says that it seems that she was good enough to speak at the expo if they weren't paying, because they felt like she didn't have enough knowledge, even though she has had a business that did $1 million in this first year. And Marcel says, yeah, and that business went bankrupt. And Melody says, to be clear, she went through a divorce, but that Marceau has filed for bankruptcy. And he cuts her off and says that everyone at that table has filed for bankruptcy. And Melody says that she filed because she wasn't, that because Martel wasn't leaving her with all that debt, basically. But Marceau had to file because he can't handle his finances. That's what she said to him. And then Marceau looks very uncomfortable when she says that, but Melody says that she could have said that she didn't want to do an expo with people who have a $5 million lawsuit against them. She just couldn't wait to throw that shit in his face, could she? And then Marceau says that he would have respected that if she would have said it. No, because you would have still had a problem with it regardless, Marceau. Like, let's stop lying, because anybody would have had a problem with that. Don't. But then Melody is trying to make it clear to Marceau that they both know that she has been in business for over 10 years. And then Marceau tells Melody that he doesn't know all of what she does, which is what he's been telling everybody. And Marceau doesn't seem like the type of person to actually care about what other people are doing, unless it's Maurice, and when it comes to business. So I believe he really doesn't know, but you can't not know that much when it comes to Melody, especially since, unfortunately, she is the face of the show. Like, I still, I still feel my way about her, but she and Martell and that messiness highlighted the show, but she herself is somewhat of the face. So you can't say that you don't exactly know what she's been doing. Like, and I get it, it's just to be shady, but basically she's like, he knows that what she's been doing and that he's just trying to limit her to the whole t-shirt thing. And Marsau is still trying to gaslight her, saying that he doesn't know all of what she does. And she was just like, boy, stop, because we help y'all get y'all shit off the ground. In so many words. Um, and he asked her, so what she's doing now. And she's like, I do property preservation, because he was talking shit about her classes that she does. Um, and then Marcel says, for all he knows, every time he turns around and he hears about Melody, she got a new business here, a new business there, and it seems like somebody trying to throw something against the wall and see what sticks. I understand that, but the way everybody's been talking about this expo, I don't think you can really talk too much more so. And then he explains to Melody that there's an audience out there trying to do the same stuff as them or as her when it comes to the t-shirts and stuff, but they don't have the platform that Melody has because she's on a #1 TV show. And says that the Fletchers made him seem like he was throwing jabs when it was just part of a bigger conversation that they had, and that it was just his opinion. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't value Melody as a person. And then they had their moment of tension, but then he invites her to the town hall thing that Kimmy threw for, the expo. And he says that he and Tisha can't throw it because he feels like they'll be too defensive since they keep getting attacked about the expo every time they go out. But tells Melody that he values her feedback. In her confessional, she says that it's funny how this meeting began between she and Marsau was because he was criticizing her business, but now he's asking her opinion on the event, and says that it might be nice to give some constructive criticism for once. And then we move on to Tiffany. And this whole scene was just real sad. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Like, I don't even want to go through the whole spiel with Tiffany and Lewis because it's so many words. She was just like, boy, you're not home. You're not helping me with this baby. I never see you anymore. So what's going on? Like, are you out here looking for something else? Or are you not attracted to me anymore? Do you love me anymore? Do you even love the baby anymore? Do you love our family anymore? That's basically the type of time that Tiffany was on. And as much as I don't like her, I understand it because she's a new mother. She's got a lot of emotions going on right now. So, but I don't know if anyone noticed that Big Lou seems real disconnected in the scene from them. Like, he's not even sitting next to them. He's not touching the baby. He's not touching Tiffany. It is giving real, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to say it without saying it. But again, every woman has an intuition. She knows that some crazy shit is going on. She knows that there's a disconnect between them. And he's like, oh no, babe, everything's cool, everything's cool. No, Lou, it's not. It's not cool at all. And you need to let her know that you're just not feeling it. And he's like, well, when I'm home, aren't I present? And it's like, yeah, but it could be a little bit more, I'm pretty sure. Okay, y'all, I just got something from my phone. But anyways, yeah, this scene was just real like, where you at? I don't see you no more. Why you don't call me no more? Why you being weird to me? That's what this scene with Tiffany and Lewis was giving. So I ain't even gonna go down all the notes for that one. And then we're with Maurice. Well, this is the official like town hall meeting thing. And this doesn't really count as a town hall because it was only like what, 8 of y'all? That don't count. No. But then Maurice and Martel are arriving. And then in his confessional, Maurice says that Kimmy setting up the whole town hall thing was a good idea because she's basically heard everybody's opinion about how they felt about the expo and aired out their grievances. So hopefully they can talk about it peacefully. And, the couple are saying hello and hugging and dapping each other up. This is when Stormi and Courtney come in. And, Stormi and Tisha hug or whatever. Courtney and Marsau dap each other up. Courtney and Tisha speak, but Stormi doesn't say nothing to Marsau. And he's like, "Hey, Miss Steele," you know, already trying to start with her. But in his confessional, he says that Stormi took a moment to not greet him, which broke his heart. And Tisha's like, "Oh, you were sad." He's like, very sad. And I don't know if y'all noticed, but even in the confessional, Tisha's getting tired of Marsau's shit. She's not feeling it no more. She's not feeling it anymore. And I don't know what he's gonna do because this is getting bad. It looks really, really bad. It feels bad from just the body language and stuff. So then the majority of the cast show up to the little town hall, and they're like, "What else are we waiting for?" And Tiffany's like, "Oh, I'm sure Melody's coming," and Maurice says, "Cool, cool," and then mentions how Marsau and Melody met up, and basically they start the whole conversation about how he was criticizing her business, like rehashing all that over again. And Kimmy's like, "Well, Marcel, don't you know that's kind of mean, to say? Like, why would you really say that?" And then Stormy's like, "What? Like, Marcel, you said that about that lady business, by the um, basically, and it's just a mess. And then when she walks in, she's like, Kimmy's like, "Oh, there's furrowed brows and tension all over the place. Like, what's going on? Y'all already talking about what's going on with Melody and Marsau? Like, it's just tension. My bad, I got that switched up." She came in and she was like, "Oh, what's going on? It feels weird in here." And then when she got in the conversation, she's like, "Well, Marsau, don't you think that could be a little offensive to somebody?" And he's like, "Me and Melody talked about it. Okay, we good. We don't have to rehash it again. It is what it is." And I'm not gonna lie, it feels like they've beaten Tisha and Marsau with a dead horse. Like the past few episodes, like y'all didn't have nothing else to film or to air. Like this is it. Um, but then after Kimmy says what she says to Marsau about it being offensive, what he said, Melody walks in her confessional. She says she didn't know what she just walked into because they're like, "Yeah, Mel, we're glad you're here," rah rah rah, to basically clarify what she and Marsau talked about at their little meeting. And she's like, "Well, Marsau did apologize, trying to get it out of the way because she really don't feel like talking about that." Um, and she said that it did take a while for him to apologize, but he did get there, and the rest of the table laughed except for Tisha. And Marsau has his head down, and Tisha's just looking very tense. Like, I don't know if they fought before they got there, but it just seems Tisha just. And I don't know. Maybe it was when Melody walked in, she got a little tense. I don't know. It just some just don't seem right. Um, but as Melody is giving her feedback, um, they show like the producers show on the camera that Tisha and Marsau really aren't paying attention. Like she's texting on her phone, and he is like on his little iPad. But then I'm like, oh, is he writing notes? Like, okay, so I guess he's paying attention, but she really wasn't. Maybe she was doing notes on her phone too. I don't know. It just didn't seem very like they were present. And then Stormi expresses how she feels about them should have having like some type of motivational speaker because that's good for her, and she feels like it's good for new entrepreneurs and trying to encourage them and stuff. And as Marsau is giving his feedback on her feedback, she gets an attitude and says that that's not what she said, being all snippy. And then she looks at Courtney and says, "You want me to tell you my questions to tell him because he being weird?" I'm like, fuck she go. As soon as she, I'm like, one damn thing, bruh. Somebody being weird or somebody a bitch. Like, I just don't know. Um, but Courtney, he's not really phased. He said, "Ain't nobody being weird, just chill out." And then Marsau says that he would really love to hear what Courtney's wife had to say about the motivational speakers. And then Stormi's face shut down. She was just like, "Okay, I'm working right now. I'll see you in a bit, okay?" And then Tisha makes a face like, "Here he go." Um, but Melody's over there cracking the fuck up. Like, she's loving this shit. Hold on, I gotta check on my cat real quick. Right. And then her confessional, Stormi says that Marsau's level of sassiness is beyond her, and she doesn't resonate with that, especially from a male, and she just isn't here for it. And then Courtney suggests to Marsau that he thinks he should let Tisha talk. And Stormi's making faces like, exactly. And Marsau tells Courtney that he has little feedback because he was in New York at the time of the expo. And then Courtney tells Marsau that Tisha should run the meeting because with Marsau doing it, it's all over the place. And he knows for a fact that Tisha is more organized than Marsau. And in her confessional, Melody says that she doesn't know what's going on with Marsau versus Stormi and Courtney, but says that the tension is thick. And Stormi tells Marsau to simmer down, and Marsau says, unlike other businesses, and he and Tisha's business, they don't have gender roles. What the fuck did that mean? Like, Marsau, what does that mean? Shut up. And then Kimmy says, look, y'all getting off topic. Y'all going down a rabbit hole, and it's not constructive, and this is not constructive feedback. And then in her confessional, Kimmy says that obviously this plan has failed. And Maurice says that he thinks that people have certain beef with each other and they're expressing it now. And Kimmy says that she thinks that Marsau is catty and is bringing the cattiness out of Courtney and Stormi and making them cattier. Whatever that means. They already came with their shit. Marsau's not doing anything. And I feel like y'all kind of just like, okay, well, Marsau picking. Let's talk about what Stormi's doing. Y'all not really paying attention to what Stormi's doing. And at the end of the day, Courtney, he's going to stick up for his wife because that's what the fuck you do. But I don't know. It's just one of them things where y'all don't see her patronizing him. And I know it's like, oh, well, Marsau, you don't need to stoop down to a woman's level, I guess, or be catty like that. Like I said in a couple of views ago, is Marsau the new Peter Thomas from Real Housewives of Atlanta? Is he the new Patricia? Because at this point, it's entertaining. And I guess you could say that Stormi is giving Mimi energy, trying to go back and forth for him, but it's not entertaining from her. It's giving childish, because we already know how Marsau is. It was very cringy when he first came on the show, when we were first introduced to him, because it's like, you kind of treat your wife crazy, you out of pocket at the mouth, But with Stormi, I don't know. And I guess some people will be like, well, Marsau finally just met his match with Stormi. I guess you can see it like that, but I just feel like she's patronizing him sometimes, and she patronized Tisha, so she got an attitude problem for real. But then Marsau says that no matter how they feel at the table, or feel how the energy is, he's writing out everything that they are saying, and that the expo next year will be better. And Tisha is looking like she's not up for that. She's not feeling that at all. Tisha's not up for another expo. And frankly, neither am I, because all of this is completely just discombobulated and out of hand. And it's not, I'm not saying that because Tisha and Marsau messed up the expo, it's just all over the place. Them collectively cannot work. The core six, and now Courtney and Stormi, they do not work well together at all. So I just feel like y'all need to leave the expo alone. But then Tiffany asks if Marsau and Tisha will be taking the lead on the next expo. And Kimmy says, well, they did for this one. Basically, and I feel like when she said that, I feel like she's trying to be shady, because she's like, well, they took the lead. Oh, they took the lead for this last expo, so why should they take the lead for the next one? Because obviously it will be a shit show like this first one, right? I feel like that's why Kimmy's saying it. And people don't catch Kimmy shade a lot, but I do. She better tread lightly before she and Tisha have issues again. But then Marsau jumps up and says that he and Tisha, are going to be doing another Black Business Expo. And then Stormi and Courtney basically say, leave them the fuck out of it. And then in her confessional, Stormi says that once she learned that this meeting was more of a critique for the Scotts, versus all of the collective trying to plan for the next expo, I guess, she says she feels like that she could have stayed home. And then turns and asks Courtney why they came. And he was like, I don't know, you invited me. And she's like, yeah, I don't know why we came. But then Melody says that she hopes that by the time they do the next one, basically they'll have their shit together by then. And then Tisha asks, so it wasn't organized? And Melody says, well, no, it wasn't organized. They talk about the $100 thing, asking people for money on the day of and all that kinds of stuff. And Tisha says, oh, so there were parts of it that was unorganized. And Mel says, yeah. And as Melody is getting up to leave, Tisha finally speaks, finally says something for the first time during this whole shit. And says, well, she kind of feels like they don't need to talk about the behind the scenes stuff that was messy because overall the event was organized. And I'm just like, Tisha, don't say nothing now because Melody said something. I definitely noticed that. I definitely clocked that and peeped that because it felt like everything else that other people said she had no problem with. Not even Stormi, who keeps calling your husband a bitch. Not even Stormi, who keeps calling your husband a bitch. You had nothing to say, right? But as soon as Melody said something, it's like, and I get it, it's their energy, it's their dynamic, whatever. But I definitely peeped that. And then Melody says that she peeped the same thing, and she just like she doesn't know what's going on with that because she hasn't said nothing about T-shirt or did nothing to her or whatever, so she doesn't know why she finally had an issue when she said something. But then Melody leaves the event because she said she had a fight again. But then Marsau tells the table that he doesn't care what they say. He is using everything that they're giving him as a tool for growth and says that it's helping him out. And Tiffany says, even the women at the table, like what they have to say is helping you. And then Marsau tells Tiffany that he knows that she's not used to being valued, but she is here, at the meeting. And Tisha's like, Marsau, like, hush up. And Tisha, I'm sorry, but this is when you say something. This is when you speak up and get him to zip his fucking lips. But you don't do that. You let him have word vomit, and then he pisses over your whole name. I feel like if Tisha really does what Melody says that she's going to do, or hopefully she does about leaving Marsau, then I hope she has a diabolical plan because the way he just be running his mouth, and y'all got $5 million lawsuit, and I'm pretty sure, allegedly, I just have a feeling that it was probably mostly his fault. Allegedly, I don't know, but yeah. Tisha, you need to talk to your boy. And then Somia's like, well, damn, mister, let me get the last words more so. And she, starts mumbling some shit and how Marsau was acting like a bitch. And again, as a grown ass woman, why do you keep calling that grown ass man out of his name? And everybody at the table has no problem with it because Stormi, this is not the first or second time that you've called that man a bitch. It's not. So I don't know why everybody keeps thinking that it's okay and they don't check her. Stormi, chill. You done said that a few times about you chill. Like, y'all not doing that. Is it because she got more money than all y'all? Is that what it is? Y'all be scared? Because I feel like there is a classist hierarchy when it comes to that group. Because I feel like she thinks it's okay to keep calling him a bitch, or saying whatever she feels like to anybody on that cast because she knows that she got the money. She lives on a ranch. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Courtney carries himself that way. I think Stormi does. And I could be wrong, y'all can disagree, but I feel like that's how she carries herself. And I don't like it. I don't like it. But then Marsau puts his hand on his chest after she was like, he definitely acted like a bitch. He puts his hands on his chest and says, I am a bitch, by the way. And Stormi was like, yeah, I know, a bad one. And Marsau was like, yeah, I'm a big bitch. And there you go. Like, what are you going to do? And Stormi tells him that she'll get him a wig. And I'm like, Tisha, you can, like, she constantly, and I don't know, maybe it's because Stormi ate Tisha ass up, or she just feel like she don't want to go head to head with Stormi no more. but she just won't say anything. And I know it's like she's staying out of Marsau business, or he must just really be doing some extra shit. And she's just like, I'm through trying to stick up for you. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's something like that. But you cannot be offering somebody's husband a wig and calling him a bitch in her face. Like, but she feels like it's okay because he's just not saying or doing anything about it. Um, but yeah, she was like, "Oh, let me get you a wig," and then Maurice was like, "Why you gotta be a bitch though?" He asked Stormi, "Why you gotta be a bitch though?" And she was like, "He's the one who called himself a bitch," basically like a little kid. Like, "Girl, you antagonizing these people. Stop." But in his confessional, Marsau says that Stormi was trying to get a reaction out of him, and then he tells Stormi that he got her feedback and calls her sweet. He was like, "I got your feedback, sweetie," and Martell just slumps his head. He slumps his head because we know if you day one fans and watchers of Love Marriage Huntsville, you know that Marsau ate Martell's ass up for calling Tisha sweetie. But then when Marsau said it to Melody, Martell had to eat Marsau's ass up. So it's just we call it back from a few seasons ago. But then Tiffany's like, "Sweetie, like girl, your comebacks ain't hitting like they was before you dropped that baby. Like they not. So just go ahead and hush. Cause you trying to come for him and he got too much for you right now." Why is she even there? Why is she even there? Because I know she arrived, like she was in the front row, because we keep talking about that, but why is she at the meeting itself? I don't like that. Because later on, and I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but later on, there's a scene with Kimmy and Nail talking, and she's like, "Oh, I just wanted to let you know that we had a town hall meeting, and I don't want you to hear from anybody else that I didn't invite you, basically." And she's telling her that because she's like, "You weren't a part of it, you were upset the first time." Now, I know Tiffany was there, but she wasn't a part of it either. So why is she at the whatever? But we're back at the town hall meeting, and Kimmy and Maurice are trying to calm everybody down and says that this isn't productive. And I'm just like, Kimmy, you knew it wasn't productive though. This isn't her first time setting up these crunchy ass meetings, and it does not go the way that it should go. And Melody left at the perfect time. She showed her face and she dipped up. But they know that these meetings don't ever go the way they should. She knows that. Kimmy knows that. Why do she think that Tisha and Marsau was like, "I'm not throwing it. Y'all can figure that out." But then Marsau says that they know who not to invite next time. And then Maurice asks Stormi, why would they not come? And Marsau says that they aren't needed. And Stormi says that that's not what they told Mel. That's not what he told Melody, that they aren't needed. And then she laughs, and Courtney says that they don't be a part of things that aren't organized. And then Maurice asks Courtney what part wasn't organized though. And Courtney says immediately that the whole thing was messed up. And Carrie says, the whole thing, really. And I said literally what Maurice said. How are you going to say that it wasn't organized and you weren't there? You just speaking off of what your wife is saying. Like, that's bias, and I get it. It's like, oh, that's his wife, that's his ride or die, whatever. But no, because not everything was unorganized. But again, Tisha didn't have that same smoke for Courtney when he said it the same way she had it for Melody, and Melody actually showed up. So I feel like it's a hierarchy here, and people just don't want to come for Stormi and Courtney because they got that money, they got that name, or something. Something just don't feel right because everybody else don't really try to comfort him, and Marsau just don't give a fuck because I guess he know that their ass is allegedly in debt anyway, you know. But Stormi says again, like a child, um, like she's bitching and moaning about the money. She brought up the $100, and she said she never once asked to be a part of the expo. They came to her. And then Maurice asked, so you didn't know about the money. he asked the dumbest fucking question because it was just like, yes, Maurice, did you not remember that whole scene when you and Kimmy was riding bikes and she told you that Stormi didn't know, and she told you that she didn't know that they had to pay $100? Like, come on. And then Stormi is just like, I'm ready to go. She's telling Courtney that she's ready to go. But in her confessional, Stormi says that Marsau would have kept tap dancing. Well, she says that if Marsau would have kept tap dancing and being Marsau, basically, she doesn't know how calm Courtney would have remained. So that's why she decided to leave. And then Courtney says that he just feels like Marsau just talks too much when it comes to women and that he should just mind his own business and it'll be good. And Stormi says that she thinks that he had more to say than Tisha. And that's true. He did. Because she's letting him put his foot in his mouth. And I don't know why. Like I said, I hope she has a master plan somewhere to get rid of his ass afterwards. Because I don't know why she's allowing this. But then Marsau says, bye, Mr. and Mrs. Steele. And Stormi is like, he do that all the time, but it's all good. But in his confessional, Marsau says that if you don't succeed at being petty, try and try and try again. And Tisha's just looking at him like the idiot he is. But then Maurice says, well, that this was a massive failure. And Kimmy says, yeah, and that Tisha needs to do something about her husband. And then Marsau says that it wasn't a failure to him and that it was a win for him. And Kimmy's like, he's been ruining their meetings for years. Y'all been ruining them together collectively. Don't even try and play that, Kimmy. And then I told you the next scene is about Melody. It's about Nail and Kimmy having their little talk. And like I said, she was telling her, basically, she was meeting her and saying, look, I didn't invite you to this town hall meeting because I didn't feel like you needed to be there. And I just want to let you know that now before you hear from somebody else. And they was like, well, I don't think you should have spoke for me because we've been in Huntsville for 30 years, longer than any of y'all. You know what I'm saying? And Kimmy's like, well, what's that supposed to mean? You know what I'm saying? She's like, what's that supposed to mean? But yeah, they had a weird moment. They just trying to put Nail and Chris on the screen. Like, I don't want to keep seeing them. Like, maybe Chris, because he's messy when it comes to Martell, but I don't really need to keep seeing Nail. Like, I don't know. But I know that, there's clips and stuff. They're going to be going to Houston soon. So that should be fun. But, I don't know. Nail gives me, you young folk is acting up and I need to come set y'all straight. Like, literally, she worked with kids. They ran a daycare for 30 years. I don't think she has any other way to communicate with these younger folks on the cast other than like, y'all ain't real friends and y'all need to get it together. Y'all go to separate corners and come back and figure it out. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of vibe she gives me. But anyways, like I said, that was Nail and Kimmy's whole thing. Let me invite her to tell her that I didn't feel like it was necessary for her to be a part of the town hall because she was not a part of the expo. So it is what it is. That's just what it was, that whole scene. Now we're with Martell, and he says he's meeting up with his new business partner out of his 11 of them, saying, that they're building a home. And Martell says that this is his first time in a few years building a home, and says that since the divorce, he and Melody filed for bankruptcy, and he never wanted to stop building, but he's in a better space mentally, spiritually, financially, and all of that to get it done now. And I don't know, I just noticed that while I was watching the episode that it seems in all of his recent confessionals from this season, Martell, the way he sits in his confessionals, his body language it doesn't give confidence. It gives unsure of himself. It gives little boy because he's like on his knees, like his elbows on his knees. You can't see my hands right now. But he's just giving like, scrunched out, like real tits. So I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but he don't have an anchor. He don't have nobody next to him. You know what I'm saying? So I just noticed that. But then Chris shows up basically asking Martell, nigga, when you moving the fuck out this house? And Marcel says a week and a half. And Chris says, nigga, you said that 2 weeks ago. That ain't gonna work. He says that the owner's pissed and he wants you out of there. And then Martell's business partner is like, damn, Chris, I like you, buddy, but you can't be showing up telling niggas that they gotta get up out the house now. And Chris, he gives his whole spiel about having a moral duty to the client and says, even though Martell is his friend, this is his client. And in his confessional, Chris says that Martell needs to really get a hold of himself and man up, and he needs him to do the right thing and get his ass out of that house so he can sell it. So he just needs to just get the hell out of the house. And then Martell says, well, get the trucks over there and help him out. And I'm just like, so is this Chris and Nail's whole storyline? Chris trying to get Martell out of his house all season, and then Nail trying to get all the women to act like they got some sense. Okay. And I want to know why y'all decided to bring Chris and Nail on the second half of the season, because they were in a lot of the episodes in the first half. Like, why did y'all start to give them confessionals in the second half? But Martell's like, get the trucks over there and help me out. And Chris is like, yeah, I can do that, nigga, so I can sell his house. What you talk about? But then Martell's like, so have you talked to Marsau? And Chris was like, yeah, about that. He says, Marsau, he got a mouthpiece. And Martell bends over laughing because he knows. But he don't know what kind of shit Marsau was saying. But then Chris is still, he's still on the fact that Marsau is like, he didn't know that they own a daycare center. And Martell says, oh, you didn't know that? And then Martell's business partner says, well, I ain't know that either. Shit, just trying to be the... He trying to get a check, too. He trying to get a confessional as well, sir. I see what you're doing. I get it. You're trying to stay apart. But then Chris is like, well, we're not as close, so it is what it is. But regardless, he is a real estate broker. If these people got a $5 million lawsuit allegedly out on them, you think he got time to be worried about y'all daycare center? He trying to get some money, nigga. But then the business partner says that, yeah, they should have been there, talking about the three of them, the way that they're bringing value into Huntsville, building these houses and stuff. And Chris says that apparently Marsau and Tisha did get some sponsorship. And Marcel says that they didn't say how much. And Chris says, nah, Tisha didn't want to say anything. And then Martell says that, well, the whole sponsorship thing was Melody's suggestion. And then Martell says that a lot of things Marceau and Tisha didn't think about until the Holtz put them on. Sir, there's no more of the Holtz. The Holtz is gone. You're the only Holtz. There's Melody Cherie now. Okay? She does not, she got rid of your name, hon. She don't claim you no more. And for him, I get it. It's like, well, that's my ex-wife. That's the mother of my kid. I gotta respect her name. I gotta keep her name right and keep their reputation going. But she's not gonna do the same thing for you, Martell. She's not gonna do the same thing for you. Yeah, but he's like, there's a lot of things that Scott didn't know until the host put them on. And then Chris says that Marsau says that he felt like he would have only paid professional speakers. And then they all kind of say, yeah, well, Melody is kind of one. She's one of the better speakers that they know, so she should have been getting paid. And Martell says that he hates when people feel like they can use you basically without admitting that they used you. And then Chris says that even with Scout, Marsau made a comment saying, well, guess who owns Scouts now? And Martell's like, get out of here, because that was the whole thing to set up. They was going to work together, and then they was going to buy him out of it later. But then says that they wouldn't be who they are without he and Melody. And he says that that's why he don't like fake people. And then in his confessional, Martell says that he saw Marsau at the town hall and says that if he would have knew he was talking this crazy, he would have confronted him then. But says that that it doesn't make any sense for him to be talking about he and Melody like that, knowing that they made him. And Martell says that shit can be taken away from you in many ways, and that God don't play, but says that he don't play either. I'm like, oh Lord, now you're about to get Floyd Mayweather out here trying to fight over his no name. But yeah, y'all, that is my review my live review for Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 6, Episode 19, titled Townhall Downfall. And if you enjoyed this review, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm trying to